as you are all slowly coming in, we wanted to let you know that there is live transcription for this event. All you need to do is click under more and then show live transcript. And some housekeeping things as we move forward with this event. This event is being recorded and streaming live on Facebook. We ask that you please stay on mute, and there will be a Q&A at the end. So welcome. We are the Coalition of Housers, CoHo, and it's a network of new and emerging leaders working in and advocating for affordable housing in the South Bay. As the need for affordable housing grows, does the need for supporting the recruitment, advocacy, and leadership and professional development of a diverse community of housers. So welcome everyone. I am Emily Ann Ramos with Silicon Valley at Home, and we are the sponsors of Coalition of Housers. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Stephen Yang, who will be our moderator for today.
Thanks, Emily. Welcome, everyone. We're very happy that we have quite a number of attendees today, so very excited in your interest. So my name is Stephen Yang. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm the Director of Multifamily Lending and Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Lead at Housing Trust Silicon Valley, a CDFI lender focused on affordable housing. And I'm privileged to be able to moderate today's esteemed panel about inclusion in design, housing, and development. And on your screen right now, spotlighted, are my colleagues, fellow Coalition of Houser members who worked hard over the course of a few months to convene this panel. And we're excited to share that this will be the first of a series. So more to come, and we'll hear your opinions and suggestions. So the folks involved are Micaela over at Allied Housing at Both Services, Max Pommier over at ADIS Architects, and Tiffany Wong at EAH. If any of them want to just say a few words, please feel free to mute yourself and share anything. If not, we'll move on to the start of our panel.
Thank you, Stephen. It's our honor to be here, and we're really looking forward to hearing the panel's discussions.
Okay, great. And if I could welcome our panelists. And while we're waiting for our panelists to join here, perhaps everyone can use the chat to introduce yourself, share your name, where you're joining us from, your organization, if you like, your pronouns. Great. As mentioned, very honored to be in conversation with you all. You all are leaders in the affordable housing ecosystem. And why don't we just take a moment to go around, if you could share a bit about yourself, your organization, and maybe talk about what inclusion means, how you define inclusion in terms of your work. So Micaela, why don't we start with you?
Awesome. Thanks, Stephen, and thanks, CoHo, for having us. We're excited that Housing Trust and SV at Home have both been great allies and partners of the Kelsey. So fun to be with you all today. I am Micaela. I am the co-founder and CEO of the Kelsey, and we are an organization advancing disability-forward housing solutions with the belief that doing so opens doors to homes and opportunities for everyone. We have over 200 homes in development in the Bay Area, and those are affordable, accessible, inclusive housing communities designed for people with and without disabilities across all incomes. The Kelsey Air Station in San Jose and the Kelsey Civic Center here in San Francisco, as well as some small pilot projects as well. But our mission is really rooted in two parts that we'll share more about the second part probably a lot today, which is that we believe to really advance inclusive housing, we need to both build communities that demonstrate that inclusion on the ground and meet immediate housing needs. But as we're building those communities, recognize that, you know, we're not going to solve the challenge 200 homes at a time, and we really need to go upstream to change policies, market conditions, funding structures, and beyond, so that inclusive housing and communities like the ones we're creating at the Kelsey can become the norm. So we both build communities and also work with partners, allies, and on our own to change systems too.
Thanks, Micaela. And I'm just going to go, who's next on my square here? So Sydnee, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, thank you, CoHo, for inviting DJDS. I speak on behalf of Designing Justice Designing Spaces, that we are honored to be here. I am the Director of Real Estate Development for Designing Justice Designing Spaces. We are an Oakland-based architectural and design firm, but we specialize in creating alternatives to incarceration and restorative justice in spaces in the built environment. A little different. You say the word inclusion, we really focus on those who have been adversely affected by the correctional system, particularly those coming out of incarceration. I don't think many of us think about what's needed when you're coming out of incarceration. You don't even have the basics like a driver's license. So we really try to focus on the social services that are needed for that, but providing the built space for that. We ourselves don't provide the social services, but really specialize in designing and building the spaces for them.
Thank you, Sydnee. And last but not least, Rod.
Yep. Greetings, everybody. An honor to be here. My name is Rod Henme. I'm an architect and design director at HKIT Architects, which is a 55-person firm based in Oakland. I'm a social advocate through NOMA, which is the National Organization of Minority Architects. I was on the board for 5 years and continue to stay active. I'm also chairperson of the board of Kimochi, which is a nonprofit seniors organization based in Japantown. And just a word about the social advocacy. I think part of that background is from my family background. I'm Japanese American. My ancestors were imprisoned in the World War II Japanese American prison camps, which is a huge injustice that I've tried to contribute to making the world a more just place as a result. The second thing is I grew up in a mixed race school environment where I saw both the tensions and the incredible advantages of having that environment. In terms of the work history myself, I early in my career was exposed and worked on public housing in St. Louis, and actually was exposed to a tenant management group where they were managing their own public housing, and have continued to work on affordable housing, working with nonprofits throughout my career. So looking forward to the conversation.
Great. And I see in the comments, there's a lot of accolades and shout outs to all three of you. So it's really great. And let's get this conversation started. I think the first half of our hour together today, let's just ground ourselves in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion concepts and, definitions of certain terminology or buzzwords that we often hear. And I'll start with you, Micaela. The Kelsey, right, centers the perspectives of people with disabilities to speed up development of affordable, inclusive community housing. And though your work begins from this vantage point, it results in opening doors to more opportunities for everyone. And sometimes, we often hear this reference as the curb cut effect. And I was wondering can you speak a little more to this point? And what does it mean when you say disability forward?
Yeah. So disability forward is a term we use often to describe our work at the Kelsey, and it really anchors on how our mission began at the Kelsey, which is that centering on the access needs and the inclusion needs of people with disabilities isn't something you do out of charity or do just for people with disabilities, but you do it because it's the just thing and the right thing, but also because it creates better experience spaces, places, housing, and communities for all people. And we are not new in this work. Colleagues like Angela Glover Blackwell and others have published on this idea of the curb cut effect, which is that when you design spaces or experiences or policies for the most and multiply marginalized within a community, in doing so, you just create something that benefits everybody. And the inverse doesn't often work. The sort of idea that it will trickle down and work for the most and multiply marginalized does not work. But when you anchor on that need, and when we say most and multiply marginalized at the Kelsey, we really look at a very specific population of, if we're designing for people with disabilities who are extremely low income, who use supportive services, and also anchor on Black and Brown individuals with disabilities, that if you really focus in on that need and the unmet overlooked needs there, that can generalize out and just create something better for everyone. And I won't dwell on the actual curb cut, which I think many people are familiar with, but if you're not, it's those things that go down between the sidewalk and the street to cross curbs. And that was done for access, but we can all talk about how those have benefited us, whether traveling to the airport or pushing a stroller or carrying a grocery cart. But I'll use an example from the housing design standards for accessibility and inclusion that the Kelsey has worked with partners on over the last year. And a great example of a curb cut effect is plain language leasing. So any of us can think about, how difficult the tenant certification and leasing and qualification process and credit checks to move into affordable housing and market rate housing is. And so one thing we heard from our design council of advocates with disabilities from across the country was like, it seems like the person who's having me sign this lease is trying to trip me up, and it just doesn't make sense. And so one thing in our design standards in a design guideline is to translate all of those materials into what's designed as plain language. So clear communication that is cognitively accessible to everyone without jargon, without lots of subtext, with summaries, and that plain language leasing process, yes, that benefits cognitive access or literary access for people for whom that processing is a learning disability or a cognitive disability. But guess what? That also supports goals of racial justice. It also supports goals of economic justice. It also just is a better leasing process for everybody. And so choices like that we make, that we may have started from an access standpoint, is actually just a choice that makes something better for everyone. The second thing I'll say on that is that it's also being disability forward and, is thinking about what it means to be co-led by people with and without disabilities. So as a person who doesn't currently live with a disability, my co-founder Kelsey had multiple significant disabilities. Our team, our advisory council, our board, our consultants include people with and without disabilities. And that's really fundamental, and also something in our design standards of that, the term nothing about us without us, that we really need to think about both co-leadership and then also what allied leadership looks like, what it looks like to show up to a space as a leader in allyship, and that there's an important role there too, and that co-leadership throughout how we envision, design, finance, conceive, and operate communities is just so essential.
Thank you for that, Micaela. And I think I'm going to remember that the inverse, like the trickle down, doesn't work, right? Of how to approach advocacy. Sydnee, I'm going to turn to you, and I'm going to share a figure that Designing Justice and Designing Spaces, shares in your case made deck. And that is that the United States spends approximately 80 billion with a B, per year to incarcerate, control, and supervise over 6 million people. And in addition to that, approximately 100 billion per year goes towards policing our communities. So what your organization seeks to do is to redirect that investment by working to end mass incarceration, by, as you mentioned, like building infrastructure that addresses the root cause, right? Such as poverty, racism, unequal access to resources, and the criminal justice system itself. So if you can talk about what it means when we say place-based, and share some of designing justice and designing spaces work and restoration, reinvestment in the community.
Okay. I think when we say place-based, we believe that part of the solution to the problem is that we don't have the places and the spaces that are needed for communities to thrive. The buildings that we design and our built infrastructure in our neighborhoods dramatically impact our behavior, our physical health, our ability to build wealth, affects our ability to learn, to find employment, and gather in ways that support the community and the ties to be safe and to be well. BIPOC communities most impacted by mass incarceration intentionally lack these places, specifically like nature spaces, community gathering spaces, places to work, to learn, and of course, adequate housing. And then of course, oftentimes access to public transportation, oftentimes food deserts, a lack of grocery stores, and other basic resources that support the social and financial health of a community. Unfortunately, we have physically destroyed, and we, meaning a collective nation and society, have physically destroyed these communities through a lack of investment in these neighborhoods. And it's specific to these because obviously we're not talking to the wealthy neighborhoods. They have everything they need. But even in the smallest ways of building freeways, I mean, 9 times out of 10, when you see a community that was thriving, particularly BIPOC community, municipalities will build a freeway right in the middle of it and cut it in half. Then you have instances where just because the zoning says you can, they build toxic uses next to it. So then you start introducing a political issue here as well. But for, instead we've, as a collective society, meaning, our government has invested in the building of prisons and, detention facilities, where the communities are repeatedly detained almost. They're dark, they're cold, they're oppressive. I mean, you've mentioned as they cost a ridiculous amount of money. We're talking hundreds of millions of your tax dollars. And their designs actually reflect the structural racism in our community, in our criminal justice system. The design process in the physical spaces can cause us so much harm emotionally, socially, and physically. I mean, there's a lot of trauma that surrounds prisons and jail cells and detention centers. I mean, not for only the people who are in there, people that work there, people come visit. I mean, you don't really think about that unless if you're not in the crux of it, it has a waving effect. And these effects are long-term. And I think it sends a message to, what are our priorities in society and what are our intentions when they're there and they don't go anywhere. So we have set out as an organization to unbuild or dismantle basically what's been created to punish and harm in this new infrastructure, but we anchor it in care, transformation, regeneration, and restoration. And those restorative investments are reflected in many of our projects that we've designed, such as Restore Oakland. That's there in Oakland. We have our Love building that we designed in Detroit, Michigan. We're certainly in the middle of the process of doing a much larger project that we will own there in Detroit. But what's amazing with working with specifically some of these nonprofits that we work with is that they own their land, so they can stay there, they can thrive. They won't have someone coming saying, hey, you have to move, and they can continue to be that influence in that grounding and building of that community. And with that comes, things like workforce development, living wage jobs, I mean, access to those grocery stores that are no longer, a food desert. And when we say restorative justice services, things like legal services for those who are coming out of incarceration and programs that that deter the entry into the criminal justice system, which is what we call a restorative justice practice. So that's kind of in a nutshell of what we describe as place-based.
Thank you for that. And truly, we often talk about dismantling structures of racism and everything. It's great to see that, that's what you're talking about. Truly, like, let's redirect the investment from these built places, redirect it into a different kind of built environment, one that is based on equity, opportunity, and love, quite frankly, right? And speaking of built environments, turn to you now, Rod, being an architect, which HKIT Architects, HKIT has a strong record, right, of earning broad-based community acceptance through design that's both sensitive to neighbors and highly functional and resolve difficult sites. And in addition, you do all of this while ensuring that your designs reflects the client's requirements, circumstances, site, and budget, which is, a very tall order. So since you're accustomed to managing such difficult tasks, I'm going to ask if you can give us non-architect folks an intro 101 level explanation of the nuances between universal design, accessibility, and inclusive design. And I have a two-part question, so I'll pause there for the first half.
Okay, well, thanks. And these great comments by Micaela and Sydnee, and Sydnee in particular referenced the importance of the environment and environmental design in the health of people. So I think it's a great lead in. I guess I'll start, and also Micaela's organization, the Kelsey, are focusing their entire effort on essentially universal design and as she said, disability first. So Micaela, please chime in should you have more to say or to correct. But I'd start with, and these three terms are very closely related. Universal design being, since it's universal, being all inclusive of everything. I think inclusive design being more of a process, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but let me start with probably the more narrower term, which is accessible design or accessibility. For many people, that is defined through in the strict terms of the code and the ADA, American Disabilities Act, and code mandated minimum requirements. And I think I would emphasize the fact that this is minimum requirements. This is by no means the ideal requirements in terms of designing for people with the needs of with disabilities. So true accessible design would extend beyond those minimum requirements and make a much more comfortable environment for those who have such needs. I did want to mention that the curb cut comment that started in the Bay Area. And the accessibility movement started in Berkeley with Ed Roberts in 1962. And at that time, there weren't curb cuts. So if you can imagine being in a wheelchair or having a walker, et cetera, trying to navigate sidewalks across the country without curb cuts, that was the state of the country at that point. And there then became a movement to create a Berkeley corridor with the curb cuts, which is how that all started. So accessibility design, in other words, is let's say that focused area. But universal design is, as the term implies, universal. It's for people of all ages, sizes, and sizes is interesting because, of course, a person who's 5 foot tall probably has a hard time reaching upper cabinets in kitchen design. So also abilities are disabilities. So to be designing for universal design, there's some tenets like being equitable, being flexible, so it can change for different sizes and abilities or accommodate them, being simple and intuitive, perceptible information. And this is not a small thing, because you can imagine if one has visual impairments, then things like talking signs, they call them, or tactile changes. Floor surfaces, for example, can help to orient a person, or even acoustical differences can make a difference, or at least making a pleasant acoustical environment, because a highly reverberant environment where there's lots of echoes makes it very difficult for somebody with any hearing impairments to understand speech. There's should be low physical effort, so things like operable doors and sizes and space requirements are different. So and the Center for Universal Design is in North Carolina State University. They've really been focusing on this for a long period of time and done great work. And then the third category I'd talk about is inclusive design. Inclusivity, as it implies, includes everybody. And that would be, in this case, I think it's important to mention that that includes not only the categories I mentioned before, age and gender, but sexual orientation and religion. For example, different religious groups will have different customs and needs for privacy or separation, et cetera, and ethnicity, language, mental health, all those things are important. But what I would mention, I think, is important about inclusivity, or having a sense of being included in a process, is very much part of a process. So for example, I remember in Japantown, they redid the plaza. And I actually thought that it was a decent design, but the Japanese American community were really upset about the process. They didn't feel like they were listened to. They didn't feel like they had a chance to speak out. And therefore, I don't think they ever liked the plaza. No matter the quality of the design, it has to do with, do you believe that you've been included? Do you believe that you've been heard? Do you identify with that space? That is, does it become yours? And in order to be an inclusive design, one then needs to incorporate the voices of the people who will occupy that place, and even, well, and more than the voices of the people who occupy that place, the voices of people who can inform you of all the things that you have perhaps not considered and should. I think that would be my short form of those definitions.
Thank you, Rod. Thanks for breaking it down to us in terms that folks can understand. I just want to take an opportunity, Micaela, I saw you nodding a lot as Rod talked, but if you wanted to add any additional context from your perspective, or if you had anything to add.
I think the only thing I would add is, and Rod, I was like taking notes, is like, I think we need like even just better frameworks of like affordable, universal, and inclusive. And because I think one of the challenges when I started this work is universal design was sort of like all the rage, and like that's what people said like the goal should be. And one of the things that is real that we both experience on a project specific basis and in our housing design standards and in policy is like it's a bit of a misnomer to imply that we can like create one size fits all and that there is a universal solution. And that's so often and that's so often like applied as as though disabled people are a monolith, and that is not the case, nor is it the case for any population. And actually there are times when there are competing access needs. We had this conversation around roll-in showers. I can't tell you how much time, if anybody wants to innovate around shower solutions for access, shower tub solutions, because that was just over and over again of, yes, roll-in showers for certain people, but roll-in showers and slip concerns, or roll-in showers, what about people who have bathing preferences? And so that's a very technical example, but there's many examples like that there's actually not a universal solution, and that inclusivity is, really actually taking diverse access needs into mind and giving people choice and giving people adaptations, and then also naming when you don't get it right. And that in an attempt to support somebody's access needs, you might undermine another's, and that when that happens, instead of trying to just pretend it didn't, to name that, solve it, and address it quite directly.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, even if one thinks about things like the kitchen situation, a countertop height for a 5-foot person is not, if you design it for that person, that's not going to be ideal for a 6'4" person. There's just no way it can be done, and or the cabinet height, cabinetry height, and things like that. So yeah, that's an excellent point.
And Sydney, I noticed that you were in strong agreement when we were talking about one size doesn't fit all. So just wanted to give you an opportunity to share any insights or perspective you might have.
No, I'm all about Rod and the 5-foot thing. So yeah, that's personal. Sorry. That's a personal thing. That's it. I was just agreeing with that one.
Yes. So to any of our panelists, please, unmute yourself if you have something to share. All right. So, and Rod, you touched briefly on this already, talking about, making sure that you engage when building in an existing community, making sure that there's engagement and voices are heard. Any additional thoughts you want to share in terms of best practices or how to make that work?
Yeah, well, particularly to this group of housing developers or housing proponents and advocates, the community input process is an important one. But I would tell you examples where we as architects have been put into unfortunate circumstances where the meetings occur too late. So the design, for example, after we've submitted entitlements and the first community meeting is not scheduled till after we submit for entitlements, well, we can't be changing the design at that point because we've already submitted. And so then we're put into a circumstance of presenting to the community and frankly, not being able to be honest, to say, we can't really say, oh, we can't change much, but we're here to listen to you. So what's important is that meetings be early in the process so that when you hear input, we can actually respond. We can take into account those comments and make changes and develop a design early. And when I say early, I would suggest that it be at the very beginning of schematic design. So that's important. And the second thing I would ask all of you who are developers is that for us architects to be able to respond, it might mean a slight give in the program. If you ask us to put 85 units on a site and it's a really tight site and we can only do it in a certain kind of height, and then the community says, wow, this is too tall, which is usually the comment that comes up, the building's too big. It'd be nice to be able to mitigate that mass by dropping a couple units at the edge and being able to step down or something like that. So I would ask for some flexibility sometimes when it's possible in the program so that we can respond to the community. There's a quote from the former secretary of HUD who said, good design is the antidote to density. And by that, he meant that these aspects of stepping down or making adjustments for a taller building in a bigger number of units than is usually in a neighborhood is a good way to respond. And so those sorts of moves are what I would hope that you all could offer the architects as a way to help to make that fit be better. Because I can say this, people, usually the comments are, it's too big, it's too many units. And so then to be able to hear that and come back in the next meeting and say, okay, well, we heard that, we were able to step it down at the edges so that it's a better fit. That's a good way to respond. But it is always important to get those voices in early and to offer the opportunity for change.
Yes, thank you for that. I mean, often when we're talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, And when truly, walking the talk, there is a recognition, one, transparency. I think both you and Micaela talked about the need to be honest, right? So full transparency there. And then also having these early conversations, I think the recognition that this process means adding time, more time, right? That it is more involved. And then lastly, just being truly responsive, truly having heard these voices, and then how are we going to incorporate that into the ultimate finished product? So, we moved into the session where we're talking about processes or, best practices. So, this second half of our conversation is really going to be focused on how do we incorporate inclusionary practices, like how do we get it to at scale and how do we put it into practice? So then, in terms of how do we get representation in our industry? So Micaela, I'm going to come back to you. As a developer, you're often navigating funding and policy priorities that often show up in this complex system of carrots and sticks, right? And you're going to have to be able to pivot where there may be opportunities while making sure that you're meeting specific codes and regulatory compliance. So we've seen that, I think some examples of that, in local siting policy shifts and also some changes in the TCAC scoring criteria, for example. And I was just wondering, what are some challenges and recommendations you like to be taken into consideration to help promote and better promote inclusionary practices in affordable housing development?
I think, and this a little bit builds off on what you and Rod were just talking about, but I wasn't initially thinking that I would go here, but I think it's worthwhile to talk about one carrot and the role of blended financing and the role of both philanthropy and like concessionary private lending and critical, significant public subsidy for affordable housing. And I just, I want to say that because I think one of the key carrots when approaching projects, whether that is conducting early stage community outreach before a project is even financed yet, because by the time a project is financed, when teams actually have the ability to kind of like go out and see a community at a significant level, like a lot of the decisions have been already baked in. And so actually the role of philanthropy to come at risk in early stages for community driven projects to support development teams to do meaningful, we've had an accelerated development timeline in San Jose, but before that we did community workshops and facilitated programming that was funded through philanthropy that made us able to make these communities more representative of people with lived experience and the community needs. And that was made possible by philanthropic funding. And so I think there's a lot of questions in affordable housing, which should have, and philanthropy cannot replace, significant state, federal, and tax credit subsidy and local and tax credit subsidy to make affordable housing possible at scale, but that unlocking philanthropy at early stages to get those projects going, and then also unlocking philanthropy at the final stages to maybe support accessible choices or inclusive residential services or programming that's outside the box of what public subsidy has yet been ready to fund. I often think about that, the goal of getting philanthropy in to actually test out things that ultimately public subsidy can take to scale is really key on being able to start to provide those carrots and put things into motion that our public sector maybe has not caught up with yet. So that's just one piece of looking at those phases of funding and how those allow us to make more accessible and inclusive choices along the way. The other thing I'll just say is, we think it's critical and have worked with colleagues on, supporting increased accessibility requirements and looking at code, but that code is not enough. Code is a baseline, as Rod said, and that actually, we also have really relied as disability advocates often on like requirements that are baseline and taking that as like, well, like that's all we're going to get. It's like, what's the requirement? And I think we need to look beyond that into what is really, the goal here, and how do we create incentives to make that possible, and looking more at the carrot. So what would it look like, to your point of density? I'm all about density. And what would it look like to actually say the projects that go above and beyond on accessibility choices, that they get they get density bonuses, or they get zoning, incentives, or they get accelerated approvals and things like that. Those have value to residents and value to developments. What would it look like to have financing sources where people get, a tax credit basis boost, or, a reduced interest rate, if they actually make choices about how they're going to deliver inclusive services to residents, or provide accessibility and design, or take other strategies to support equity and justice or deep affordability within their community. And so I think we need to think not just about setting the minimum requirement, but actually creating systems that allow people to, one, go beyond that requirement, and two, to think outside the box beyond what's already been done before, and really be able to, take advice from people with lived experience and implement those in different and new ways.
I know that as a lender, I'm taking copious notes in terms of what incentives can be offered. And I know that we have audience members out there who work for public entities who hopefully are taking notes too. Sydnee, if it's all right, if I could bring you in on this conversation, because I know that you mentioned about philanthropy in the space that you work with, and the importance of that.
When you're talking about transitional housing, which is, I guess we're still trying to maybe find a specific term for those literally coming out of incarceration. Your typical funding streams to build housing for them won't work. I come from that world. I built affordable housing. I've worked for a housing authority. I've worked for the city. I've worked for all of them on that side. And I've worked for the private developer. So I've touched all different areas. And when you say affordable housing, that typically excludes those who are coming out of incarceration. So you're like, okay, what do we do? So yes, to build the housing that's specific for them, because again, a lot of people, when they're literally walking out of prison, like doors open, here you go, they give you a bus pass, say, go ahead, go do your thing, be a functioning, contributing member of society. We don't want to see you again. Well, yeah, great. But where are they going? A lot of them don't have a place to go. A lot of them don't have a family to go stay with. So what do? And can't just go to an apartment. Hey, you don't have a driver's license. You don't have a year's worth of pay stubs, your credit, you don't have any of that. What do? So it immediately excludes you from the typical realm of affordable housing, which is kind of what I focus on if we're doing a housing component in any of the social impact mixed use projects that we do, which is for those services. It's almost solely dependent upon, philanthropy. If you think about permanent supportive housing, the social services that go with that, you can't get a loan for that. It can't carry debt because it's not going to make any money. So a lender's not going to go, oh yeah, we're going to pay for those social services, roll it all into the loan. That doesn't work that way. And you need specific social services for those who are coming out of incarceration. So in the realm that I work in my world, from a development standpoint, and what DS is focused on, right now, that's our pathway. I mean, I've tried to become really creative on some things. Like if I'm creating a temporary or transitional housing where there's a cap on how many days they stay, we could call that hospitality. We could get a new market tax credit for it. So, I've had to try to come up with really creative ways of how I can manipulate what's existing. Because my philosophy, as long as you don't tell me I can't, that means I can in some way. So we have to come up with things like that until the traditional funding streams kind of loosen the reins a bit and say, oh, hey, here's a chunk of the population that needs housing. Because how are you going to expect them to become a functioning member of society? They don't have a place to stay. I mean, you need food, shelter, and in this case, a job to become self-sufficient. So, we're trying to build a space where they have a place to come to get those things and get them on the track for those things. so they don't go back to prison.
And I can't help but keep going back to that $80 billion, taxpayer dollars. And if, we could just think differently and redirecting how we spend the money.
And we're working on that, by the way. There are some initiatives out there, particularly through the state of California, that we're looking to kind of redirect some of those dollars, and hopefully we can get them for this type of thing. And in New York, I have to give kudos to New York. I don't live in New York, but I have to give kudos to New York. They've figured it out. And it's amazing the funding they have available for this type of housing, because they went, ding, oh, yeah, that's a thing. So yeah, kudos to them. But I mean, it's going to take, it's a lot easier to change people's minds than it is to change the government. So
I know a lot of us in the industry are pretty competitive, so we'll make sure we're the right coast, right? So we'll be looking at how to play catch up. Rod, I'm going to turn to you to talk a little bit about representation, in our 5 minutes or so before we get into our Q&A. You're deeply committed to furthering opportunities for minority architects. And I think in your intro, you mentioned that you serve on the board of the National Organization of Minority Architects, NOMA. So I'm not sure if you have the statistic handy share today, but I think you share clearly there's an imbalance of people of color in the architectural profession versus the communities that they serve and live in. So, can you share why representation matters and what message you'd like to get across to the industry at large and to anyone who may be early in their career or thinking about architecture as a profession?
Sure. Thanks. A few very brief statistics. The country U.S. is about 38% minority, but of those, architects are only about 10% of the total number of architects in the U.S. are BIPOC, and that's about 5% Asian American, 3% Latinx, and 2% Black architects. And so the Asians are most closely represented to the proportion of the population, and the African American and Latinx populations are woefully underrepresented for a variety of reasons. We in NOMA have been working hard to create a pipeline to increase those numbers. And we're also working hard to increase the opportunities for those architects so that that they can succeed. Why is it important? As I mentioned, inclusivity and a sense of inclusivity by communities is very much a process-based situation. So if in NOMA, I often hear people refer to, I'm the only person in the room who looks like me. Well, if you're going to a community and you don't have somebody who looks like them, then that connection cannot be made as easily, at least. Nor perhaps would the understanding of that community be perhaps as deep. And so I believe we need representation in the architectural realm. And I think that better representation would produce better architecture, a more understanding architecture, and hopefully allow us to be able to communicate better with the communities that are often BIPOC communities that we serve. But since we're talking about housers here, I'd also like to challenge you all to be more inclusive, because frankly, I don't see many BIPOC housing developers when I'm working with all these nonprofits. So I would ask you to consider recruitment and hiring procedures. For example, sometimes students coming out of less wealthy, less well-developed schools may not have as fancy resume, may not be quite as, may not have exactly the same kind of skills coming out, but they will be really good employees. So that's one thing to consider. And secondly, I would ask you to consider teaming with smaller, evolving minority nonprofits, because these RFPs always require, 3 previous projects with a similar size and experience. And, how can a small group have that when they're just beginning? So if you're able to team that can give some experience to a smaller evolving group, and or just ask yourself, as a group, how can we do better? How can we be more inclusive? That's what we architects are asking ourselves, frankly, perhaps not as much as we should, but we're not doing well, and we need to do better. And I hope you would look at yourselves and say the same thing.
And I do want to save some time for the Q&A, but I think this particular topic is important, so I want to give both Sydnee and Micaela some time to chime in as well. Sydnee, you've mentioned before in terms of representation, and you work for a nonprofit that's led by Black women. Anything you like to add, or any call to action that you would like this audience to hear?
Money makes the world go round, and it makes development happen. I mean, just my own experience, it's, your accessibility to the money is a challenge, because, in the development world, the real estate development world, it's very white. I mean, it's one of those things that it's very male and it's very white. So, when you have melanin floating through your veins and all of a sudden you're going, hey, I want to do this, you have a couple more hurdles, unfortunately. And that has to change on a much larger scale. I think when you have like-minded people all together and you all go, oh yeah, that needs to change, that's not going to do us any good. It's about getting to those who are not part of the group of like minds, understanding that is a challenge, why it's a challenge, and showing them, hey, you may not think that was a big deal, or you may not think that had an effect, but let me tell you why it did and how it did. And then, let me provide you with a solution. Because it's one thing to say, hey, here's the problem. It's another thing if you say, here's the problem and the solution. So it's about getting the ear and having the attention of those who actually make the rules, and encouraging them to change the rules. And that takes a long time. I mean, I remember when I worked for the Housing Authority, and specifically for the audience, they're like, which housing? Fort Worth Housing Authority. We embarked upon, HUD had a new program, we call it Section 8 2.0, and it's Rental Assistance Demonstration, or RAD. And when they rolled out RAD, the intention was for you to take a single, public housing development and convert it, and then you move on to something else. Well, yeah, we decided, you didn't say we couldn't do this, which was take all of our public housing units, disperse them across the city in new development, and basically undo what we've been doing for many years. And at first, HUD, which I have to give props to, not everybody in HUD has their head in the sand like an ostrich. I have to give props to the Fort Worth HUD office, because we said, hey, this is how we want to do it. And they said, well, that's not how we wrote it. And I said, but you didn't say I couldn't. So HUD was open-minded enough to go, okay, let's hear what you're talking about. We showed them how it's beneficial to not only them, because it's very important when you're dealing with a government entity, you have to show how it works for them, but also for us and our residents. And they said, oh, team, the whole light bulb went off. I mean, it didn't happen overnight. It was a long process. But when we did the first deal and they went, oh, this works. Then it was okay. It was an accepted practice, and other housing authorities said, hey, how did y'all do that in Fort Worth? And they started doing it, and they're like, oh, so now Fort Worth Housing Authority is completely out of the public housing business, which is great. I mean, we're talking about a huge portfolio of, when I did RAD, but we're talking about 3,500 units. So it wasn't an easy haul, but it got done. But it was about changing that mindset.
Thank you for that inspiration.
That's where we gotta go.
Thanks for those inspiring words. I'm going to keep doing it until they tell me I can't. And then, another quote I've heard float out there is that no one's going to believe you can until you do it. Micaela, if you would take a minute or two, I know you've worked on raising the roof, or any other aspects you'd like to share.
First of all, I just really, Sydnee, I feel deeply relating to well, you didn't tell me I couldn't. So I really appreciate that. And I really relate to it. I'm gonna borrow the term. I think we have to question, first of all, the program that Stephen referred to that you referred to just now, Stephen, the Raise the Roof program. You know, there are great pipeline programs out there, like the Bay Hip program that our friends at NPH run. And I think looking upstream of how do we grow our pipeline of BIPOC talent, and we also layer onto that of BIPOC disabled talent. So when we were really looking to make sure that our team at the Kelsey represented the people that we aim to actually provide housing to, and looking for people who worked in housing advocacy or housing finance and housing development among disabled leaders, you know, people haven't been, you know, told that this is a space that they can work in. And people haven't been supported in early stage careers and mentorship in this field. And so we tested a program actually in the middle of or the early phase of COVID called Raise the Roof, which was a 12-part training program for leaders with disabilities to advance housing, and was actually a lot of the organizations represented here came as trainers in that. And that was really our first attempt at that, in an area that we're continuing to look at going forward of how do we look at increasing disabled leadership across all realms of housing development, design, advocacy, and finance. And I think, Rod, to your point of, you know, thinking about too, how you hire on your team and how you pick consultants and how you pick development partners and how you pick, you know, advisory councils, and also that you pay people for their labor, that people with lived experience aren't just brought in as you know, ideas, but that people are paid for the value that that labor has. And I think the last thing that is really key, and it's something that I, you know, continue to think about in our organization as a Kelsey, is both how you look at the pipeline of how you bring people in, but also how, you know, culture as an organization, and we are not done in this work yet at the Kelsey, but I think really how our culture supports access and inclusion across all forms, and also like where our culture is like ableist or, you know, embedded in sort of whiteness, and that's real, and you know, around acknowledging and transparency, like constantly questioning these things, and as a leader being, you know, really open as a straight white non-disabled lady who runs an organization focused on access and inclusion, like I need to think about what that means as a leader in allyship. And you know, it's a constant challenge, and taking feedback and tweaking and not getting it right. But I think that that can't be understated too, that it's both a systemic issue, but it's also an individual responsibility, and that we have to, you know, take both realms to go forward around a more, you know, diverse and accessible and inclusive field that we work in.
Well, thank you all for your important insights into that topic. Macy, if I can ask you to come online, and is there any burning question? I think we might have time for one question for the Q&A.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen. Thank you, panelists, again. I mean, as a permanent support housing developer working closely with services and a Bay Hip mentor, it's really important that we underscore inclusivity and diversity. So this has been a really illuminating and insightful discussion. We have a question from the panelists. We have actually several, so I can only choose a few. So the first one is for Sydnee. Could you talk more about how prisons are physically designed with institutional racism in mind? I'm curious to hear more about your perspective on this.
You're muted, Sydnee.
Thank you. I get all excited and start talking, forget to unmute. I guess when we say it's more of a systemic thing than I guess probably a design thing. If you think about the populations that are in prisons and correctional facilities, they are disproportionately people of color and low income. And if you think about how the prison itself, the prison system itself is focused on punishment, security, and separation of people from each other in their communities. I mean, if you look at this from a real estate standpoint, that's redlining all over the place. I mean, it's literally, you're going, no, and redlining was illegal because it enforced segregation and racism. So if you're looking at a system like that, and we understand, we get it, that you know, when crimes are committed, they have to be addressed in a certain way. But is that really the solution? So when you're looking at it on that perspective, from a systemic perspective, then yes, it's institutional racism. I mean, not to mention the prisons themselves lack, color, acoustics. They don't have soft things, no access to nature, things like that. So that can be, aside from, the fact that they're in this place because of something that happened, but now it's contributing to those other things I had talked about earlier of really creating a place where there's toxicity for those that are in it and around it and involved with it.
Thank you. I know we could keep this conversation going, and I understand there are 2 more questions from Macy, but I think we'll be mindful of everyone's time. We'll, unfortunately stop at this juncture. I hope I'm not over volunteering here, but maybe we'll reach out in terms of where those 2 questions lie, and then maybe connect you with the person answering the question, or we can do it via a post afterwards, a blog post after this seminar when the recording goes out. So yes, again, I'd just like to thank each of you for your time today and sharing your experience and insights.
Thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you very much for having us, and it's great to have an audience that's asking for some thoughts and hopefully some a critical way to think, and we hope that you'll go out and do good as you have been for so many years. We appreciate you.
Thank you,
Thank
Rob,
you.
Micaela, Sydnee.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Thank you all.
All right, thank you. I will be ending the live and the recording stream.